This is lesson 1.5 out of the Rates, Ratios, and Statistics book. In my class, this lesson is on page 106, and lesson 1.5 is titled Perimeter and Area. It probably could have been titled better. We've dealt a lot with perimeter and area, but this time we're dealing with perimeter and area with conversions in our units, both customary and metric. All right. Okay. Well, as always, we're going to start with a warm-up. And the warm-up is determine whether or not each sequence is a geometric sequence. Remember the difference between geometric sequences and recursive sequence. Okay, and so as you try to get your remind yourself of this, answer, how do you know? When you make your decision, how do you know that's true? All right, so the first one is 2, 6, 18, 54, ... And the next one is 2, 4, 6, 8, ... All right. Okay, and the next problem is complete each conversion. All right, and problem number 3 is 4 yards equal how many feet? And problem number 4 is 20 millimeters equals how many centimeters? All right, that's your warm-up. Okay, I'm going to just skip one line and write our I can statement for this lesson. I can convert measurements. I can convert measurements to find. I'm trying to fit this on one perimeter and area. All right. So dark green pencil under here, and we start our notes. All right. So I'm gonna give you kind of a heads up on this one. Everything we do in this lesson you have already learned how to do before. We're just putting a lot of different steps all together in a process. And so I'm going to show you some ways to order your work, which are going to be very important, because there's on your worksheet there's only 6 problems, but there's so many steps to each problem. If you're not disciplined in how you order your work, it's going to be tricky. So don't worry, I'm going to show you a good way to order it, and you'll know just what to do. All right, so first let's write down what our steps are for how we convert. Well, not just how we convert, but how we're going to use measurements in converting. All right, so step number 1, and I'm writing real small here. Step number 1 is we're going to calculate measurement. Going to calculate measurement in first given unit. So the problem is going to ask you to find the perimeter or area in, let's say, feet. All right, and so that would be your first given unit. And then they're going to ask you to find it in, let's say, inches or square inches. And you're going to have to convert all those measurements before you can find it in the new asked for units. All right, so on step 2, we're going to convert all measurements. Convert all measurements. And then the third step, third and final step, is to calculate using second given units. All right? All right. Probably shouldn't. No, that'll be fine. Okay, so I'm just going to take, I think my purple pencil here, and underline these steps and make room for my problems. And so right about in the middle of the page, I'm going to draw a line all the way down. And make room for two problems. There'll be one problem here and one problem there. All right? So the instructions for the first problem are find the perimeter in, and that means in a particular unit, and I'll draw the figure and you'll see what I mean. So in, here's our rectangular figure, and I'll outline that. And outline that, and we're finding perimeter. So remember, perimeter is all the way around. It's a linear, all in one line measurement, so we don't square it or cube it. It's just the unit itself. And this particular shape is 1/4 of a meter wide and 3 meters long. All right. So step one. Step one, oh, I better not do that. Hang on a second here. I need to make a little bit more room. Hold on just a second. All right. See if I can get this not to show too terribly much. Oh, not bad. Okay, good. So I need to move that over here in order to have enough room. All right, so step one is we're going to calculate the measurement in the first given units, and that is in meters. All right. Now it's we're calculating perimeter. So first step when we're working with measurements always is to write the formula. So P equals 2L plus 2W. So now we fill in known values. So 2 times length is 3. Plus 2 times width is 1/4. Then we do the math. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 times 1/4 is 1/2. 2/4 is a half. And so then we can add those two together, and we've got 6 and 1/2 meters. All right. I'm kind of squishing this up a little bit because I just want to keep it together on one page if I can. I've just got my light green pencil here. I'm kind of making a column. All right, so the perimeter of this figure is 6.5 meters. All right, now step 2 is to convert those measurements, the 3 and the 1/4, to centimeters. So step 2 is convert. Now, converting is just like what we were doing in 1.4's lesson. No, nothing complicated about it, especially since in this problem we're dealing with metric. So 3 meters equals how many centimeters? Well, I know 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, and I know I'm going to multiply on this one. So 3 times 100 equals 300. So now I've converted 3 meters to 300 centimeters. Now my other measurement I have to convert is this 1/4. So same thing, I've got 1/4 of a meter equals how many centimeters? Well, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, and I'm going to multiply. So I've got 1/4 times 100, and that's easy to do because I know a quarter of 100. If I have 4 quarters, that's $1. 1 quarter is 25 cents. So I know a quarter of 100 is 25. So 1 quarter of a meter equals 25 centimeters. Now I have, oops, I better get that up there a little higher. Sorry, guys. Now I have both of these measurements converted from meters to centimeters. So now I can figure out the second given that they wanted us to do is part 3 is to convert, to find out what the perimeter is now in centimeters. So we're just going to repeat the process we did above, only now instead of using these measurements, we're going to use our converted measurements because we're going to try and find out what it is in centimeters. So again, the first step is P equals 2L plus 2W. That's our formula. So the length is now 300 times 300 plus 2 times the width is now 25 because we're dealing in centimeters equals, now 2 times 300 is 600 plus 2 times 25 is 50. So we've got a very simple 650 centimeters. Not squared, this is perimeter, centimeters. All right? So now we've found the perimeter of this shape in meters, 6.5 meters, and in centimeters, 650 centimeters. All right? And those are the 3 steps. First unit they give you, convert. Second unit they give you. All right? Okay, now let's do another problem. This time it's going to be area. So we're going to, let's see, my frame here. Yeah, good. All right, so we're going to find the area in, and I've got a little triangle here, and this triangle is 5 feet in height and 12 feet at the base. All right, so I'm going to outline it, but we are finding area in this problem. So I'm going to shade it in with my light blue pencil to remind myself this is not a perimeter problem. This is an area problem. All right, and then with my light green, I'm going to divide this space in half all the way down and get ready with step 1. So step 1 is to find the area of this triangle in square feet. So that's what they're giving me first, in square feet. All right, so area of a triangle, formula first. Area equals 1/2 times base times height. Fill in the known values. I know the base is 12 feet. I know the height is 5 feet. Now do the math. I bring down the 1/2. 12 times 5 is 60. And 1/2 of 60 is 30. So now we're dealing with area, so it's going to be feet squared. Don't forget that squared. All right, okay, so we did step 1, that's find it with the given values, the first given values. Now we have to do the conversion. So step 2 is to convert these feet to inches, because that's the second part of the problem. I know you don't see that on here yet, but I'm just telling you it is. You will on your worksheets. All right, so second step is to convert. And what are we going to convert? Well, first I'm going to convert this base. So 12 feet equals how many inches? All right? Well, I know 1 foot equals 12 inches. Oops, I should have put a foot there. There we go. 1 foot equals 12 inches. And I'm going from large to small, so I know I'm going to multiply. So 12 times 12 equals 144. So 12 feet equals 144 inches. All right, my second measurement I have to convert is this 5 right here. So 5 feet equals how many inches? Well, I know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. I know I'm going to multiply, so I'm going to multiply 5 times 12, which equals 60. So 5 feet equals 60 inches. Now, step 3. Step 3 is calculate in square inches. Right? So same steps as above. Okay, now we're just calculating with these figures over here. So first step is area equals 1/2 times base times height. Bring down the 1/2, plug in the base. The base is now 144. And the height is now 60 for our square inches. And bring down the 1/2 again, and I'm just going to tell you that 144 times 60 is 8,640. And 1/2 of 8,640, oops, I put a little equal sign there, didn't I? Sorry, that should be a multiply still. 1/2 times something is the same thing as saying 1/2 of something. So 1/2 of this is 4,320 inches squared. This is area squared. All right. Okay, so those are the 3 steps for doing these converting of measurements. One example you have is in perimeter, and the other example you have is in area. One example is in metric, and one example is in customary. So that should pretty well walk you through what you need for your worksheet. But let's look at some practice problems and see how you're doing. All right? All right, here are your practice problems for lesson 1.5. They're a little bit tricky to see. I divided the paper in half so that you could have room on your paper for all 3 of the steps. One problem on this side, one problem on this side. All right, so problem number 1, let's just look at the perimeter one first. You'll want to set up your paper so that you could see the shape, and then step 1 is to work out the perimeter in meters. Step 2 is to convert meters to centimeters. And then step 3 is to work out your calculations for same shape in centimeters. All right, and the second problem on this side is area. Find the area. Step 1 is to work out the area of this shape in square feet. Step 2 is to convert those feet to inches. And then step 3 is to work out what is the area of that shape in square inches. All right, let's see how we do these. Okay, so the first problem here is the perimeter problem. And I have a rectangle here that has a length of 2 meters and a width of 3/4 of a meter. And so the first thing I'm going to do is calculate the perimeter in meters. So my formula for perimeter is P equals 2L plus 2W. And now I will plug in known values. I know my length is 2 meters. And I know my width is 3/4 of a meter. Right? And now I do the math. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 2 times 3/4 is 1.5. And so, in meters, I have 5 and 1/2, or actually we should be expressing this as decimals. When we're working in metric, we usually use decimals. So 1.5 would be 1 5/10. So we'll make that 5 5/10. It wouldn't be wrong if you did it in fractions, but we typically keep things in decimals when we're dealing with metrics. So the perimeter of this rectangle is 5 5/10 of a meter, or 5.5 meters. All right, so I'm going to circle that. And then now I'm going to convert these measurements here from meters to centimeters. All right, so I'm going to scooch up here and show you how it's done. All right, so the first measurement I had was the length, the 2 meters. So I've got 2 meters equals how many centimeters? All right, I need a conversion factor. I know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And I know I'm going to multiply because I'm going from larger to smaller. So 2 times 100 equals 200. All right, so 2 meters equals 200 centimeters. All right. Okay, now the next one that I need to take care of is the width was 3/4 of a meter. So on that one, I have 3/4 meter equals how many centimeters? Well, again, my conversion factor is 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And I'm going to multiply, so I have 3/4 times 100 centimeters. All right. Well, again, think of this 100 as quarters. If I have $1 and I have 4 quarters, 3/4 of those would be just 3 of those quarters, and that would be 75 cents. So 75. 3/4 of 100 is 75. So 3/4 of a meter equals 75 centimeters. All right, now that I have these converted into centimeters, I can calculate the perimeter of that rectangle in centimeters. All right, so again, P equals 2L plus 2W, which means 2 times my my centimeters for the length is 200. So 2 times 200 plus 2 times my width in centimeters is 75. So 2 times 200 is 400, plus 2 times 75 is 150. And so my answer is 550 centimeters is the perimeter of that rectangle. So that rectangle in centimeters is 550 centimeters. In meters, it's 5.5 meters. All right? Okay, so now let's look at our area one and see how we do that. So the first thing I got to do is figure out what is the area in square feet. All right, so I've got a triangle that has a base of 4 feet and a height of 3 feet. So first thing I do is write out my formula for a triangle. A equals, for area of a triangle, A equals 1/2 times base times height. All right, and now I'm going to plug in known values. The base is 4 feet and the height is 3 feet. And so now I'm going to do the math. Bring down the 1/2, and 4 times 3 is 12. And half of 12 is 6. So the area of this triangle is 6 feet squared, if I'm talking about feet. But now I want to find out, well, what would that be in square inches? So I have to do the conversions. So conversions. The first measurement I'm going to convert is the base. And the base was 4 feet equals how many inches? All right. Well, I know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. And I'm going from larger to smaller, so I'm going to multiply. So 4 times 12 equals 48 inches. And so 4 feet equals 48 inches. So I've made that conversion. The other conversion I need to make is the height of the triangle. And the height of the triangle is 3 feet. So I need to figure out what that is in inches. So 3 feet equals how many inches? Well, 1 foot equals 12 inches. That's my conversion factor. And I know I'm going to multiply. 3 times 12 equals 36 inches. So the height of my triangle in inches is 36. All right. Now, step 3 is to figure out what is the area of that triangle in inches. So again, first step is to write down my formula for the area of a triangle. A equals 1/2 times base times height. Then plug in known values. For the base in inches, I now have 48. And in height, I have 36. Bring down the 1/2 and figure out 48 times 36 is 432. Let me double check my measurements on that. Hang on a second. 48 times 36 equals, no, not even close. I multiplied it by 12 for some reason. Okay, hang on. All right, so 1,728. So 1,728. Now, 1/2 of 1,728 is 864. Okay, 864. 864 what? Well, that would be inches squared. All right, so the area of the triangle in square feet is 6 square feet. The area of the triangle in inches is 864 inches squared. Okay, did I say 6 feet squared or square feet? Either way. All right, okay, so that's your practice problems. And let's take a look at your worksheet. All right, so worksheet. As I mentioned earlier, there's only 6 problems. The first one is finding the perimeter in square feet and in square inches of this square. The next one is finding the perimeter of this triangle, first in centimeters and then in millimeters. The third one is finding the perimeter of this rectangle, first in yards, first in feet. Then we're going to move on to area, find the area of this triangle first in meters and then in centimeters. And then we've got this rectangle down here, the area of it first in feet and the area of it in inches. And then the last problem is how many square inches are in 1 square foot. So that's just another way of saying first find it in one unit and then find it in the other unit. All right, that's pretty easy to figure out. All right, so here's the tricky part. There's no way you can do all this work on this worksheet. In my class, I want you to do all of your work on notebook paper and then transfer your answers to the worksheet, staple your notebook paper to the back. And here's what I would do. I think you should do your problems just like I showed you on these practice problems, one problem in 2 columns of your paper, right? So problem 1 here, problem 2 here, flip it over, you'll have problem 3 here, problem 4 here, and so on. So you'll need 2 sheets of paper, and what I did is I just took a sheet of paper and I folded it in half, okay, and then open it back up. And with your pencil or whatever, colored pencil if you want, okay, just draw the line along the crease here all the way down. And then you've got problem number 1 and problem number 2. And you are going to do your, whatever the first unit is, then you're going to do convert, right? 3 steps. And then you're going to do whatever the second unit is, right? And do that one problem there, one problem here. Flip it over, problem 3, problem 4. Next sheet, fold it in half again, same thing. Okay, problem 5, problem 6. Okay, then staple these to the back of your worksheet. Make sure that you've put your final answers, don't forget labels, on your worksheet, right? And then staple them together in the corner. Okay? All right, so that's the worksheet. Here's your exit ticket for lesson 1.5. Pretty much the same as everything we've already done. We're just working with this one shape, this rectangle. They want you to find perimeter in yards and feet, and then area in yards and feet. So pretty easy conversions. All right, so that's lesson 1.5 out of the rates, ratios, and statistics book. Remember, the only way to learn math is to do math, and mistakes are proof that you're learning.